How's it going, everybody? It's Pilot Flame, and we are back with the Game Week 3 review and Game Week 4 preview, whatever you want to call it. We're going to be taking a look at the team. We're going to be doing all the usual stuff. Just some usual announcements to start off with here. If you haven't done so already, make sure to give us a follow here on Twitch. Make sure to subscribe over on YouTube, like the videos, all that good stuff. Follow us over on Twitter so you can get the bulletins as to what videos and stuff are coming out. I'm changing it up a bit. We're going to be doing the previews, assuming if there's a Monday game, we'll be doing it a couple hours after that. If there's like Tuesday games and stuff like that, we'll move it based on that. But typically there's going to be games, maybe some games on Monday. I know there's none this week, but we'll be doing the previews on Mondays now, or as close to that as possible. And then with double game weeks and all that sort of stuff, we'll adjust it later on. I like to do the preview a little bit earlier. It's just the past couple of weeks been a bit busy, a bit hectic, so I've had to do it the day before the deadline. So we've switched some things around. There will be a video on Friday in replace of it. So basically all the videos have been pushed a day forward and the preview comes out early, which means you get to talk about some immediate stuff. You get to do some knee-jerking as to what happened on in the Monday night games and that sort of stuff, which is all in good fun. But remember, you have to think about the reasons why you might be bringing a player in, which is why we're here to discuss, why we're here to help you out. Also, as I mentioned, Twitter is very important just because we do put the bulletin up, like I said, of the videos that come out. This week we're going to be doing a wildcard video on Tuesday. We're going to be doing a buy, hold, sell on Thursday, captaincy on Wednesday, and we're going to be doing a pep roulette again on Friday, which is going to be quite interesting because he ain't got many players to choose from, and they just got spanked 5-2 versus Leicester. And what I might end up doing as the season goes on, once I'm not doing the wildcard videos, because we're going to be doing one for this week, one over the international break, and then one for the second international break. What I might be doing is lineup videos and discussing what players I thought of bringing in, what players I have in the team, you know, all that sort of stuff. That'll be the video that goes on the Friday, and we're still doing the deadline streams as per usual. So, without further ado, the topic of today's video, if I lean my chair back just a little bit, you can see, are Wolves a must-own? They just lost 4-0 to West Ham, but they have a fantastic run of fixtures, so we're going to dive into that. We're going to talk about Liverpool defense. We're going to talk about Manchester City as just overall assets and how they function without a proper striker. And we are going to check that all out among much, much more. So without further ado, let's see how the team did this week. Also, would like to give a shout out to Mageledi. I think that's how you pronounce it. Thank you for the follow. Much appreciated. So, we have all of our different stats on the side. The two with the asterisk, so the overall rank and the game week rank, are subject to change. The subs haven't gone in, but I've accounted for that with the points. So it's 62 points this week with a -4, which means that we ended up with 58. That is when Burke comes in, as you can see, for Podence, who didn't play. We brought him in for a hit. He didn't play. We got Burke's 3 points off the bench. Not the end of the world. 3 is better than 2 in most cases for some people. So, but yeah, let's just kind of run through the team a little bit. So, the game week started off, we had James Rodriguez looking good again, Calvert-Lewin getting us a goal to start off with. Fantastic, lovely days, we're happy about that. As well as Fernandez playing in a game that, I mean, he wasn't very good in the first half, but he somehow came out with a goal and an assist, so we'll definitely take that. We were patient, we kept him in, and I just feel bad for the people that had Son game week 1, took him out in game week 2, brought him back in game week 3. That must have been an absolute nightmare. But we stuck with him, and he got us 12 points, which is quite good. Then the week kind of got a little bit worse. So Podence didn't play on the Sunday. Doherty lost his clean sheet at the very end. McCarthy got a clean sheet at the end of the Saturday, which was you know pretty good as well. So overall, we started off decent. But Werner not scoring wasn't great. Mitrovic today didn't score, even though he had a bunch of headers. But Liverpool came in and saved the day. Robertson getting a goal and some bonus. Trent Alexander-Arnold getting an assist and some bonus, even though he got booked. Salah getting an assist, so we got 3 and 3 in terms of captaincy picks. So we're doing quite well on that for the year. 3 for 3 is definitely a good start. And out of all the captains that you can think of, so the people we're probably going to be captaining, the most common ones will be Werner, was going to be De Bruyne and was going to be potentially Salah. And Salah was the only one out of those three that got a return. So we have to be happy with that. But yeah, Potence is going to come out for Burke, which will get us 62 points. If we hadn't taken a hit, we took one and got 58. Mitchell getting 1 point. Ferguson still outsteered, did not play. But McCarthy finally got a clean sheet, and I think that's our defenders have been doing quite well. If you look at the results for Liverpool defense, Robertson 4-6-10. I don't think there's any midfielders in that bracket that have done that as good as him. Trent 1-7-7 so far with a assist and a clean sheet. Robertson has a goal assist clean sheet. Van Dijk also, I believe, has a goal in the first game, clean sheet in the second game, but didn't get anything this game. So, and he potentially had could have had a header or two go in as well versus Arsenal. So we'll have to see how that definitely plays out. Because there's a guy in the Scoutcast, can't remember his name, but he had triple Liverpool defense to start the season, and this looked fantastic. So I think they're staying in my team for the time being. I was considering, maybe I drop Robertson, maybe I drop Trent Alexander-Arnold. Well, I mean, they've come out with a clean sheet, 1 and 3, which is what we wanted. We got that, but then Trent's also backed it up with an assist and getting some bonus points. Robertson's got goal assist in that time with a clean sheet. So I think it's looking quite good, personally. The only suspect in the team right now, down back, is the likes of Doherty, and then obviously Ferguson because he's not playing, but that's, not really too worried about that. In midfield, we're happy with Fernandes. He's going to score a penalty versus Mourinho, win 1-0, get 3 bonus, and then we're going to be happy because Mourinho is already mad that United get penalties and all that sort of stuff. So we'll see on that front. James Rodriguez, he blanked this week, did well for us last week. Can't expect him to do too much overall, but he's got Brighton at home, who like to play relatively expansive football, which could leave space for him as well. Salah's got Aston Villa, so no complaints there. Potential captaincy option. Podence, it was just a knock, so we'll have to see in that regard. But he's got Fulham, and Fulham conceded 3 to Aston Villa, so we're pretty happy with him. Calvert-Lewin, same as James Rodriguez. Mitrovic, not great, but Wolves, he can score against pretty much anyone as long as he gets service. Wolves tend to sit back, and they'll kind of just let crosses come in, but they'll probably just defend with those all day. He may be somebody that we look to get rid of, but he does have a nice run of fixtures from 6 to 9. Sheffield United also is not an FDR4 anymore. They're not that great of a team, personally. I think that they failed to score, and defensively they're looking more and more suspect each day. So we'll have to see on that front. And then Werner is also potentially up on the chopping block. His own percentage has gone down drastically, down to 30.8% when he was almost up at 50% to start the season. But he does have one more decent fixture in Crystal Palace at home, and we'll have to see kind of how that goes. But if there's any potential inkling that Chelsea might not have Ziyech and the lot, might be one of those might have to transfer him out, but I kind of don't want to take a hit if I don't have to this week. I might just keep him in there and hope he does well, and maybe just transfer out Doherty. But yeah, that's just some early thoughts in that regard. For our predictions for the week, let's go through those really quickly. So we have Man United predicted 3-1 over Brighton. They ended up winning 3-2. Thought it was going to be a draw. Somehow managed to get something out of that. If you're not familiar with the scoring, the way it works is exact result. So if I predicted 3-2 Man United win over Brighton, I would get 3 points. If I get the result right, so a Man United win in this case, and it was a Man United win, then I get 1 point. And if I get it wrong altogether, then I get 0 points. So we get 1 point for that. We predicted Everton 2-0 over Crystal Palace, ended up being 2-1. So we get 1 point for that. Chelsea did score 3, but West Brom also scored 3, so not much going on there. We predicted a Southampton win 3-1. They won 1-0, so we get 1 point for that. Leeds 3-1 over Sheffield United. They actually won 1-0 and kept a clean sheet, so good for them. Spurs 1-1 draw. We predicted a 3-0 win for Spurs, so no points there. City 4-1 to Leicester. Joke's on you. Leicester won 5-2. So they won by the same margin I predicted. It was just 1 goal extra for each team and the other way around. So nothing there. Wolves 2-0 victory over West Ham. They lost 4-0, which is a surprise to a lot of people. Fulham and Aston Villa 1-1. Yeah, they didn't. They didn't draw. Aston Villa looked quite comfortable, even though Fulham did have some decent chances. So we got that one wrong there. And then Liverpool versus Arsenal 3-1. It was exactly 3-1. So we get 3 points there. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 in total for our score. So that's on par with what we're looking for. We got 7 last week, so we at least maintained our score here. Moving into the differentials and clean sheet picks, Spurs did not keep a clean sheet due to the handball rule being stupid. Patricio conceded 4 goals. Doherty only got 2 points. Foden didn't get a return as far as I remember. No, he didn't. Okay. He did not get a return. And Chris Wood didn't score either. So we got all our clean sheet and differentials completely wrong, which is a bit unfortunate. But so a lot of surprises this week. A lot of surprises. So United continues their bad form, even though they managed to scrape a win. Now people are going to be like, oh, well, they got a lucky call because the game was already over and they pulled it back. But what you have to remember is the handball took place before the final whistle was blown, so therefore they have every right to go check VAR. My thing is, I'm not sure how there was that much added time on after the fact, because Brighton scored with like no time left in injury time that was allotted, so who knows. But we'll take the 3 points. We'll take the 3 points. Everton versus Crystal Palace. The score line is a bit more flattering to Palace not being a wider margin, personally. Everton could have scored definitely a few more. The 1 goal that Everton did concede was a bit, kind of against the run of play. So, overall, flattering scoreline for Crystal Palace by only losing 2-1. West Brom versus Chelsea was basically a tale of 2 halves. West Brom obliterated Chelsea in the first half, and then Chelsea just slowly got their way back into the game and got 3 goals for themselves, making it somewhat of a respectable scoreline for themselves. Southampton versus Burnley. Southampton kept a clean sheet, which is something we didn't think last week or even the week before. But keeping it quite solid. Che Adams finally getting a return for himself. Danny Ings back on the score sheet. A pretty Burnley result, if I'm honest. Even though they were on the losing end of the 1-0. Leeds versus Sheffield United, pretty close-ish game. Leeds probably had the better share of it, but if Sheffield United finished off the chances in the positions that they were getting themselves into, they could have potentially done more damage, in my opinion. And the XG definitely shows that. Spurs Newcastle was 1-1. Again, the handball rule coming into play. People are saying, oh, VAR is ruining the game, this sort of stuff. It's not VAR. It's the rule that IFAB, the International Football Association Board, or whatever it's called, is instilled onto the league. And the Premier League, as a separate organization, can be like, this rule is stupid. We're going back to what we used to do. That's something that they can do and can dispute if they want to. They could also technically be like, we don't want your VAR anymore, and they go back to normal. So we'll have to see on that front. I think there needs to be some more. So basically what they've done, for those that don't know, the handball rule is split up into 2 basically, sections. So you have offensive handball, so a handball committed by a player on the attacking the team with the ball, and then that leads to a goal scored. And then there's one where a defending player hands the ball or it hits his hand in the box. So the offensive one is basically now, the rule was before, if the ball hits a player's hand, so the patch on the shoulder pad, the Premier League patch, if it's below that patch, it's considered a handball. What used to happen before is if it ever hit the player's arm and that whole sequence of play, no matter how many times people touched it, ended up in a goal for that team, it was disallowed. Now, what they're saying is that if the ball hits below the patch and is considered a handball, if there's enough time for it to be a new sequence of play, so in the Chelsea versus West Brom case, the ball comes in, it hits Havertz with him not even actually looking at the ball. Like, he's watching the fly of the ball, and then at the last second he looks away because the defender looks like it's going to get in the way and potentially knock it into his face or something. It bounces off his chest, hits him in the arm, drops down. The West Brom player then has a chance to clear it. They don't, therefore that is considered a new passage of play. So what you have to kind of think is, after the handball, does the defense have a chance to get rid of the ball? And then is there like one or two more things that happen after that? That's kind of how my understanding of the rule works. As for defending a handball, that's just a complete ridiculous rule. So basically what it is now, if your hands are not completely exactly by your side and the ball hits you in the hand as a defender, it's a penalty. There's no arguments around it. That is the rule. So if this is my body and this is my arm, if my arm is even just like that, just even any form of daylight, and it hits me in the arm, they can call a penalty. So like Calvert-Lewin example, he had his arms tucked inside of the frame of his body and it hit him in the hand, or hit him in like the lower part of his arm. That's not a handball. Whereas, unfortunately for I think it was Ward from Crystal Palace, his hand, he had to use it for his balance, was slightly ajar from his body. It hit him in the arm. That's going to be a penalty. Same with Dyer. Dyer's hand was away from his body. He had no clue where the ball was because it was going over his head. It was then headed back. It hit him in the arm. It's a penalty. So if I'm a coach, I'm telling teams, my team, to just crank the ball at people's arms. That's what I'm going to do. Just shoot when you're in the box. Because they're calling penalties for any time it hits somebody's hand. So, unless there's a genuine attempt to get your arm away from the ball, then that's something completely different. But my thing, if I wanted to change the rule to where it would make things better, so where it's like this accidental handball, so you're not just blasting it at people's arms. What I would do is say, okay, if somebody hands the ball in the box, like if it hits somebody's arm, under the condition that they are fully aware of the play that's going on. So like Eric Dyer, the ball's going over the top of his head, and he's using his arms to balance because he's airborne. So like, if your arms are intentionally raised up, like Malpai did versus United, that's a handball. But Dyer's using his arms to gain an aerial presence. He's not using it to take advantage of somebody. And he can't see the ball because the ball's behind him. He's just jumping up to so he's using his arms to jump up. He goes to get the header. It goes just over him. The guy behind him heads it and hits him in the arm. He has no control over that. So I think that should be considered as an accidental handball. Also, I think they need to kind of do some type of proximity, because there's a lot of handballs that are striking the defender's arms that are within like 3 yards, which is just like, they need to have some type of proximity. I can understand if a guy's arm's outside of his, like he's got his arm out like this, and the ball's hit from, on the edge of the D, and he's standing on the penalty spot. That's something completely different. Whereas, he has time to react. Whereas these guys are literally point blank. They're getting the ball blasted into him or headed to him when they're not even able to look at the ball. So I think there needs to be a change on that, just overall. But yeah, can't even remember where we were. I think it was West Brom, Chelsea. No, Southampton, Burnley. No, Spurs, Newcastle. That's what we ended up on. Leicester smacking Man City. City have a lot of injuries, and we'll talk about in a little bit how they're going to be going forward, because they don't seem to play well with this whole false nine thing and never have. West Ham beating Wolves again, another shock here. We thought that Wolves were going to be very good defensively. That's why we have them in the thumbnail. But I think their good run of fixtures definitely warrants a Wolves defender potentially. And then Liverpool just kind of keeping their form from last season. I predicted this. This is why I'd love Liverpool double defense. I'm like, well, I didn't think they would do this well so far. Even not keeping clean sheets, still getting bonus points, still getting goals, assists, all this kind of stuff. So I think that Liverpool are just kind of continuing from where they left off last season. And getting a proper full off season for them, more or less, as much as they can, is good for them because they didn't have to play Champions League because they were already out of it. They didn't have to play Europa League, no FA Cup, none of that stuff. They were already out. So they were able to rest and have the adequate amount of time, as adequate as you could have in this current climate of the game. And that's why they look the most rejuvenated, the most fresh. But yeah. Let's go into this Game Week 4's fixtures. So, early morning kickoff. Chelsea played Crystal Palace. I think Chelsea are going to need to bounce back. They're going to need to do something this week. Otherwise, there's going to be even more scrutiny for Frank Lampard to have to deal with. Another home fixture. They should be able to control this one. They should be able to do quite well. I think Chelsea do bounce back, and I think they win the game 3-1. Everton versus Brighton. I mean, if Brighton concedes 3 goals to a very, very bad Man United team, I think Everton can do even better. I think Everton will win by the same scoreline as Chelsea will this week. I think they win 3-1. Leeds versus Manchester City. Now, this one is a bit tricky because City, not able to be as free-flowing. When a team, puts, a bunch of bodies, frustrates the opponent, which I don't think Leeds will do, then it makes Man City, a lot, makes them a lot more flustered. It makes them a lot more erratic. And it basically just comes down to the genius of Kevin De Bruyne to open something up. Because Raheem Sterling as a false 9 does not work. So let's touch on that. Raheem Sterling, when he plays as a false 9, especially if City go down in the game, he's just never in the game, ever. Like, he just doesn't get touches on the ball. When he does get the ball, he's very lackluster with it, and it's just something that's a bit worrying. So if you had Raheem Sterling coming in with Jesus in the team, I was saying, okay, that's a good pick. I think that's going to work out. Now, it's looking like De Bruyne or bust for the entire team. Yes, Mahrez was quite good. And it's probably going to be good for this game week as well. I know a couple of people that have brought him in, for the game week on and did quite well, getting a goal assist. But again, when teams just put a bunch of, people in front of the goal, they need wonder strikes. And Mahrez is capable of that, as we saw with his weak foot and also with his left foot. But there's going to be situations where, these types of things are just going to be a bit, kind of all over the place. You can't really predict for them. So we'll have to see on that front. But I think that without an out-and-out striker, City struggle a lot. The striker is there to, make runs in behind, create space for the wide forwards, and these false 9 players, Raheem Sterling, they know how to make runs from out in. They don't know how to make runs through the center. And even when they do get the ball in the center, typically they don't have enough strength or kind of technical quality, I want to say. They are very good players in their own right, but being a number 9 is a completely different set of attributes that you need than being a wide forward. A wide forward, you need to be able to, how to dribble. You got to be able to use, a burst of pace. You got to be able to beat a man. When playing the number 9 role or a striker up front, you have to be one of the most patient players on the field, because there are going to be times where you're not going to get the ball for long periods of play. And you got to figure out, how do I keep myself in the game so that when I do get the ball, I'm the most effective with it. Like, look at Jamie Vardy as an example. Game week 1. He had an open play XG of 0. He did not have a shot on goal, but scored 2 penalties. Game versus Manchester City. had, I think it was a total of 10 touches in the entire game. He scored 3 goals. Like, it's just a matter of when and where and how. And I don't think that the likes of Farah and Torres, a new signing, I don't think Morris can really play the false nine role, even though you can stick him there. Foden, again, a young player, probably doesn't know that trait yet. Sterling has played there the most, but again, Sterling goes missing a lot in games, especially when they play the false nine. It's worked a couple of times for Pep, but overall, its overall success rate is very bad. They need somebody who can play an out-and-out number 9 role. So like the youngster Delap that came on, he is. We've seen that he can play in the number 9 role. That's his position. I would say play him there. That'll probably bring City a bit more success against teams that sit back. That being said, Leeds are not just any ordinary team. They're going to attack. They're going to press. They're going to do all these sorts of things. And I think that, City are the type of team that can exploit that. And I think this could be a bit of a goal fest. I think City still win. I think Leeds still get a couple of goals in it, though. And I think Manchester City win 3-2. Newcastle versus Burnley. I think it's 0-0 because both teams are rubbish and can't score. If anything, I think it's Burnley 1-0, but I'm going to go with just a boring 0-0. Especially if St. Maximin isn't back. I'm not sure the extent of his injury. I haven't checked that out yet, but we'll have to see on that front. Leicester versus West Ham. I thought that they were excellent in their game versus against the City. They're going to have more possession of the ball, which is going to favor West Ham a little bit. But I think that Leicester defensively have shown that they can be quite solid. The 2 goals that they conceded, one of which was a wonder strike from Riyad Mahrez. The other one was just lack of concentration from a set piece. Nathan Ake shouldn't be winning a header to score a goal in the box. He's barely 6 foot, I think. And you should be getting your big men up there, like the likes of Johnny Evans, and getting involved there. So I think that Leicester win this game. I think they win it quite comfortably, and I think they bring West Ham back down to earth and win 3-0. Southampton, I think they also win by the same scoreline over West Brom. I think their defense is improving. I think West Brom caught Chelsea on just basically 3 opportunities that had low XG percentage chances to go in, and they all went in. So I don't think they're going to be as lucky, especially they're not going to be given as much time on the ball because Southampton are going to be pressing them and pressing them and pressing them. Yes, they play a high line, but West Brom were able to get space against Chelsea. I don't think this is going to be the case for Southampton. I think they win 3-0. Arsenal versus Sheffield United. Sheffield United are going to be good on the counter, but Arsenal have shown some resilience in that. They were more or less in the game versus Liverpool, although not really showing too much attacking at all. They basically parked the bus for 90 minutes for the most part. Lacazette scuffed one into the back of the net. He was offside for one one-on-one, and the other one-on-one he showed why he's not, in my opinion, a top striker in the Premier League. Yes, on his day he can do finishing, but when you have a chance to go 2-2 when you have had a quarter of the possession and put pressure on the champions and you don't take that opportunity, that's a bit of a problem. So I think Aubameyang, if he's played through the middle, I think he scores that. I think potentially Nketiah tries to round Alisson and has the pace to do so. Lacazette just tried to do too much for something that's just needs to be simple in that scenario. You have to dumb things down when you're in front of goal. I think what's the most effective way to finish this? Doesn't have to be cute, just got to go in the back of the net. Because at the end of the day, a 1-0 scoreline, doesn't matter if you had a screamer from 50 yards or a tap-in that was bundled over that hit off your knee, forehead, other knee, and then hits off your shin and goes in. Like, it doesn't matter. It's still the same. It's still a goal. And one-touch finishes are a lot more effective. That being said, I think Arsenal still comes back. I don't think Sheffield United are very good offensively. I think they'll win by just a standard, comfortable 2-0 scoreline. Wolves versus Fulham. I think Wolves' defense still has some some work to do. I think there's a chance they can keep a clean sheet here. I think that Mitrovic potentially, or somebody maybe gets maybe a lucky goal, and then during Wolves' like ascension in the game, and I think that Wolves come back and just win the game 2-1. I don't think it's going to be a very a crazy scoreline because Wolves' invention in the game wasn't that great. Their XG versus West Ham, who didn't really defend. Not like Arsenal today versus Liverpool. They still had players that were pressing around and not, sitting in two banks. They just didn't seem to have it. And Fulham are going to try to press. They're going to try to, do all these sorts of things. I think where Wolves can punish Fulham is hitting them on the break. And I think that's where they'll be getting their goals from. But Wolves don't typically score goals in bunches. And I think that will be the same case here. Man United versus Spurs. I think United will probably find a way to win this one. I could just see them just winning this game and then losing to Newcastle or something. It's just going to be one of those ones, I think. And unfortunately, it's going to be at the expense of Jose Mourinho getting mad because one of these goals is probably going to be a United penalty. Do I see Spurs scoring in this game? I think United just has a mistake in their defense. However, Heung-min Son is out, so I'm not sure if that's going to be, a cause for concern if Bergwijn comes in, although he did score post-restart in the last season. I think United potentially, just scrapes this one out. I'll say they'll just concede. Maybe United gives away a stupid penalty or something to Harry Kane. And, Harry Kane doesn't miss from the penalty spot. So 2-1, I think, is a fair scoreline here. Could also easily be 1-1, but I'm going to edge it just to United just because of the fact that Mourinho's been talking some smack. Ollie's been giving it back to him. And I think that overall, United, they played bad versus Brighton. It can only be better. Spurs probably played as good as I've seen in recent times. And they got it 1-1. So we'll have to see. Aston Villa versus Liverpool. I think Villa's going to try to play with the ball. They're going to try to, progress forward. They're going to try to press. And I think that's just going to fall right into Liverpool's hands. And I think that that's going to cause some just be their downfall, really. I think Liverpool win this one quite comfortably, even though they are away from home. I can see potentially a set-piece goal score from Liverpool. I can see a couple open play goals. I'm going to give them 3 goals. Are they going to keep a clean sheet versus Aston Villa? Actually, let me just check the results of Villa. So Villa, they kept a clean sheet versus Fulham. Not really too much achievement there. They kept a clean sheet versus Sheffield United, who can't score. Not really too much there. And then they didn't play in Gameweek 1. So they haven't really played anyone, really. So I'm going to say that they don't. And I'm going to go with a 3-0. I mean, they struggled to score versus a 10-man Sheffield United. So we'll just go with a 3-0. In terms of clean sheets and differentials for this week, the clean sheet pick is going to be Arsenal. I think that Sheffield United have been struggling to score. And I think that Arsenal should be able to do it quite comfortably, keep a clean sheet. Aubameyang will probably get back on the score sheet because he's very good at teams that are lower half teams, which I think Sheffield United might, regress this season. And it should be quite comfortable. In goal, I think Kepa, not Kepa, definitely would never pick Kepa. Edouard Mendy could potentially keep a clean sheet. I did predict a 3-1 because I do think that Crystal Palace will have some shots on goal. It's just a matter of will they go in. Zaha has been pretty clinical. But with the transfer window pretty much closed in the next couple of days, I don't see Crystal Palace doing anything to make Zaha, happy. So I think that him knowing that the window's going to shut, I think Chelsea would do quite well. They can probably keep a clean sheet. And with Mendy in goal, I think that brings, a bit more assurance in that back line, which could just make them, a bit more comfortable. In defense, I'm going to go with Nelson Semedo. He looked okay in their 4-0 defeat versus West Ham, which is not something that you often say when you concede 4. Wasn't fully match fit, but the things that he was doing is putting in some decent deliveries, which were unfortunately blocked. But again, making good runs into the box, making good runs out wide, interchanging with Traore was quite nice, and that seems to be their strength, point of strength going forward. And he's going to be rapid on the counter because he is electrically fast. I'm not even sure if that's even a sentence that can even be put together. That's proper English, I think. But he's very fast, and you ain't got to tell Nelson Semedo to get forward. In midfield, I'm actually going to go with Donny van der Beek. He currently sits under 5% as well. I think that he could come into the starting lineup. I can see him playing in the double pivot with the likes of Fred or Matic. I think his energy, his positional awareness, his creation of space with his movement is something that Manchester United need, and it's going to allow to make it a lot easier against Spurs. I don't think you can play Pogba in this game. He just doesn't look fit at the moment. He had one training session and then played the first game of the season after having come off a stint in quarantine, so he hasn't really had a proper preseason. He hasn't fully recovered from what I can tell. He's not fully fit yet. Donny van der Beek is fully fit. He was playing with Ajax, playing for the Dutch national team. He played a preseason game. He's come on. He's shown bright sparks of form. And I think whether you play him in the double pivot or in the number 10 role, I would like to see him in the double pivot, mainly because he gets forward, he gets back, he will defend, he will attack, he creates space, and it could make for more of like a proper 4-3-3 with him and Bruno playing as 8s. And Bruno needs to get into the box a bit more when he's out of possession, because Donny's going to be creating a lot more space for him. And I think with those two, if you have Matic or Fred at the base, even Fred in a team where you just need energy. So against Spurs, you just need players that have energy and move the ball quick. Donny van der Beek does that, Bruno does that, Fred does that. And I think that you don't have to worry about Spurs' height, because if you pass it around them, nobody's faster than the ball. So I think that Donny van der Beek could be an astute pick at 7 million this week, and that's why he's a differential. And last but not least, someone who's dipped below the 5% mark is Che Adams, getting an assist last week, and I think against West Brom, I think it could be quite a field day for both him and Mr. Danny Ings. So those are my clean sheet differential picks and my predictions for the week, which we also post on Twitter as well. Another reason why you should follow us on all the socials, so make sure you do that. But yeah, in terms of the timings of the games, Liverpool again being the final game of the day of the week on the Sunday. We have the earliest kickoff with Chelsea and Palace. So a lot of people, this is going to be a lot of their points are going to come from the Sunday. So if you look at it, you have some people that are going to be having Danny Ings or Che Adams. Some people may be bringing Aubameyang for this game. Some people are going to have triple Wolves in this game. Some people still have Mitrovic, like myself. Some people are potentially going to be bringing United assets back in. People probably are bringing in Liverpool assets. Some people are bringing in Jamie Vardy and Leicester assets. And then you kind of look at, game week or in game week 4 on the Saturday. The only real teams that people are going to have Everton players, so that's one game to kind of look at. Chelsea people are probably shipping out. Leeds players, maybe. Brighton players, maybe just Lamptey, but again, against Everton, you're probably not looking at that as a, ideal fixture. Man City players, maybe, and then Newcastle versus Burnley, they might as well just not even, they could have taken one of the two 8 o'clock games on the Sunday and put that there, and then that would have been more exciting, because at least people would have had a game to watch that wouldn't put them to sleep. So, because Newcastle Burnley is going to be boring, probably. Who knows? It might be a 3-3 thriller, and I could be completely wrong, but we will have to see. I'm just going to refresh the page here and see if the points have gone through. They have gone through, so I'm actually going to change my game week rank and stuff really quickly here. So let me just move this up. So our game week rank properties is 504, 556. That's our game week rank. Which I'm actually gonna just put as, I'll just round up and just 505K. And then our overall rank is correct. We managed to get that from another source. Get that exactly right. 2.4 million. So we had a pretty game week overall. I'm not sure if the average is 29 points, but if it is, that's pretty bad. Then it's been a bad game week. So the stats all on the right hand side now are correct. And we did get Burke come in for his 3 points. Okay, let's go back to our team for this game week. So, the current team we have set up, we have McCarthy in goal versus West Brom at home. We have our double Liverpool defense in Trent Alexander-Arnold and Andy Robertson versus Aston Villa. We have Matt Doherty versus United as well. We have James Rodriguez with Calvert-Lewin against Brighton at home. Fernandes is home to Spurs, so a little bit of conflict there with Doherty versus Fernandes. Salah versus Aston Villa. Podence is going to be versus Mitrovic, so Fulham at home for Wolves and Wolves away for Fulham. The one nice thing is, though, is that even if Wolves score 1 billion goals, it doesn't affect Mitrovic, so I'm perfectly fine with keeping him there. Wolves have shown that the defense isn't as good as what we think it is at the moment, so it's kind of a wait and see there. And then Werner has Crystal Palace at home, so a lot of home fixtures on paper, and the away fixtures are still okay. The one that I'm really kind of looking at is Werner potentially, because he could be someone that, you know, isn't ideal. You know, Crystal Palace could be good defensively, very astute, and could cause us some problems. You know, I'm happy with Fernandes because he's going to get a penalty, and Mourinho is going to go absolutely, you know, AWOL. And then Doherty. I don't want Doherty in. He's already dropped in price. Hasn't looked great overall. Spurs don't really, you know, show me much confidence. You know, 2 points, 0 points, 2 points. Not really too great overall. And there's definitely better options there. And then on the bench, you know, we hope that we don't have to play Mitchell and Ferguson versus Chelsea. Obviously, Ferguson's probably not going to play. He's going to be out for a little while. And then Burke is Arsenal away. Could he potentially get something? Maybe. But I like Podence better. I like Mitrovic better in those fixtures. Because you can argue that Arsenal's defense is better than Wolves' defense. I mean, Arsenal only conceded 1 versus West Ham. Wolves conceded 4. Arsenal only conceded 3 to Liverpool. You know, whereas you know, Sheffield United, they could be a little bit better, but overall, I think Fulham can still show something. And Mitrovic is always on penalties as well. Again, you know, we have we thought James might be on penalties, but it ends up being Richarlison. But that could, again, I still think that maybe could just be Richarlison hadn't had a goal yet, and they may have just given it to him. So they're still up for debate there. Werner could still be on penalties. Mitrovic is. Calvert-Lewin is just doing good. Fernandes is. Salah is when Milner's not on the field. Yeah, so overall, not too bad. So that's kind of how we line up. In terms of who we want for captaincy, I think that Calvert-Lewin is a suitable vice captain, but I think Salah is going to be the one that we go with this week. I think that was going to be the plan all along. I think, you know, captaining, you know, Salah, you know, Aston Villa away. I think Everton away is probably a bit harsh to potentially captain him. Just kind of looking ahead a little bit. Maybe United versus Newcastle is potentially an option. Just trying to think. There's not really much else out there. If I had a City player, maybe versus Arsenal, I think Fernandes versus Newcastle could be good. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But I think that's where we're gonna keep it for now as our current lineup going into this week, assuming we don't make any transfers. So let's kind of take a look at and plan ahead a little bit here. So the players that are potentially in question in the lineup is Fernandes after potentially the next 2, because his fixtures, you know, Spurs at home, I'm perfectly fine with that. Newcastle away, I'm okay with that, assuming he's, you know, does okay versus Spurs. But then Chelsea at home, Arsenal at home, Everton away. United are going to have to show me something really good there in order for me to keep Fernandes. If Donny van de Beek comes in and Fernandes starts playing a bit deeper, he could even be, you know, be gone even earlier. So we'll have to see on that. But I like West Brom at home. I like West Ham away, even though it is in theory a tougher fixture for United. I like Sheffield United. as a opposition for United. But in terms of immediate replacements this game week coming, I think Doherty's up there for potential replacement, and I think Timo Werner is up there. Everyone else is good for this game week or serviceable. In the case of Mitrovic and Podence is probably just a knock, so serviceable. Mitrovic, again, serviceable versus Wolves. We don't mind if Wolves win 3-1 and Mitrovic gets a goal. That's perfectly fine with us. So in terms of the players that we could potentially be looking in at defense, the one that I'm looking at in general is Castagne. I think he's been excellent so far. Getting a clean sheet in the first game with a goal, 2 assists in the second game, getting an assist in the third game. Looking absolutely fantastic overall, and I think he's just a fantastic player. Can play on both sides, so even when Pereira comes back in, he'll switch over to the left. He's basically like an 8 out of 10 with both feet, which is a fantastic trait to have. So he could be quite good there. Another player that we mentioned, obviously, in our differential picks is Nelson Semedo. Obviously, only played one game, but we know his attacking threat from when he played at Barcelona. And then we obviously have, the kind of the standard ones. We have Reece James, who has Crystal Palace at home, Southampton at home. But doesn't have, has a bunch of okay fixtures. But again, are we going to see anything, special from Chelsea's defense? I need to see a game first before I think about potential, Chelsea defense overall. I just think that at some point we're going to want 3 Chelsea attackers, and if you have Reece James in your team, that's going to potentially hinder you if you want the likes of Havertz, Werner, Pulisic as an example. So we'll have to see. That's the wrong James. I want James Justin. He's at 4.7 million at the moment, so he's quite expensive now. Got an assist in the first game with a clean sheet, got a goal in the second game, quite fortunate there. Didn't get much in the City game. And I think Castagne provides a lot of attacking threat down the right-hand side just for assists and just deliveries overall. So I think he's going to be quite a favorite of Jamie Vardy. In terms of what we could potentially look to get in the forward line, we have, obviously, you could potentially get Jamie Vardy, could potentially look for Patrick Bamford. We can go for an Everton triple up with Richarlison. We can go for the likes of Danny Ings, who has fantastic attacking fixtures. We don't mind if Everton concede because it's only 1 point lost on James Rodriguez. It also gets rid of any Coleman or Digne clean sheets. Chelsea away, we are perfectly fine with Danny Ings in that fixture. Aston Villa away, Newcastle at home. Wolves away, if we don't have a Wolves defender, we're perfectly fine with that. Manchester United at home. Man United look to be conceding, even though they're my team. Brighton away, Sheffield United at home. I think these run of fixtures for Danny Ings could be fantastic. And he is the main guy. He's also on penalties too, so he could be one that we bring in. Jimenez is going up in price. He has good fixtures from 4 to game week 7. Leicester away is going to be tough, and we wouldn't want him to play against Castagne if we brought him in. Southampton at home potentially could score there. Arsenal away looked a bit more, better defensively. Liverpool away is a bit rough, but then Aston Villa at home is okay, and then against some Big Six teams among the Christmas period, but could potentially see some tire from him, going long term in that period. So I think Danny Ings has a much better run of fixtures and is going to be less owned. So he's 19% owned. Jimenez is going to rise probably up to 25-30%, whereas Ings is going to stay down. And I think that he could be somebody that we potentially look to bring in even as early as this game week instead of Timo Werner, because Timo Werner is up against Crystal Palace and Danny Ings is up against West Brom. So we could potentially see that type of change. That leaves us with 1.7 million in the bank for a 4-point hit. So we still have the potential to, if United look terrible versus Spurs, we could get rid of Fernandes, and then we can look to bring in De Bruyne when he goes to play versus Arsenal. versus West Ham versus Sheffield United, or we can assess, City in that regard. Um, just overall, or we could potentially move to whoever else in that category. Maybe another Chelsea midfielder. Maybe we bring in Pulisic. Who knows? But we can reassess. But I think those are the two that I'm kind of looking at. 1.7 million in the bank does leave us a lot of room for potential changes. Mitrovic could be upgraded to a 6.5, like Wilson, or I think he's 6.4 now. It potentially also leaves upgrades for Podence to a 7 million. So maybe we could go for the likes of Zaha or Grealish or somebody like that. But I think Podence at 5.5 is perfectly fine. We could potentially bolster our defense a little bit, put a little bit of cash in there. We could take out Ferguson and put in somebody. But that, again, that's a luxury move. Same with the goalkeeper, again, a luxury move. But the main ones that I'm looking at, Danny Ings and Castagne for this week. I think once we have that -4, then from there it's going to be single transfers on out. So we've done a -8, we've done a -4, and done a -4. I think with City looking as bad as they did, if they score big versus Leeds, okay, fine, that's kind of expected. But again, maybe Bielsa's tactically, astute enough to be like, let's just sit behind the ball for the first 20 minutes and see if they get frustrated, which they will. City will get frustrated. They've shown that style of play of just putting men behind the ball can frustrate them, especially when they don't have an out-and-out striker. So I think that this could be something we can go with, and then we just play, our 3 up front. We have our 4 in midfield of Salah, Fernandes, Podence, and Rodriguez. We could potentially have a captaincy option in Danny Ings this week, as he's at West Brom at home. That could be a differential captain that we can potentially go for. Castagne is someone that is going to get some returns. Again, if we look at Leicester's fixtures, West Ham at home, perfectly fine. Aston Villa at home looks good. Arsenal away even looks good, because he can, Brendan Rodgers can do the exact same thing that Arteta wants to do versus Leicester. But again, Brendan Rodgers is going to do the same thing that he did to City, and he's just going to use Jamie Vardy to run at Arsenal's backline, which if they, keep David Luiz in there, he's going to give away a penalty probably. Leeds away, again, there's going to be some space for Leicester there. Wolves at home, they can play more of the possession game. Liverpool away is not ideal, but that is where potentially we can look for other options, maybe. So if Mitchell is in there, that's Burnley away. We could potentially play Mitchell for that game in the long term. Could be something that we look for just in terms of clean sheet purposes. And then Fulham at home, Sheffield United away. That's a good fixture. It's not an FDR4 because Sheffield United have been bad. Brighton at home could potentially be a fairly easy fixture there. Everton at home isn't great in 13. What does Mitchell have? Mitchell has West Ham away. Not too bad there. And he could potentially keep his place even if Patrick Van Aanholt comes back, but we'll have to see. And again, those are much longer term. But I think these are the types of players that we're looking to potentially bring in the very, very short term. And I think with that -4, there would be no real fires to put out. So I think Fernandes would be perfectly fine going into next week, game week 5 after the international break, with with Newcastle, Fulham's fixture. After the Wolves away, Sheffield United away, who haven't been looking as good, so perfectly fine there. Everton, they do play Liverpool at home. Not great, but again, it's going to be going against our double Liverpool defense. But again, that's something that we just have to kind of take. If they score, we just have to hope that Trent and Robertson get, returns on the other end. In an ideal scenario, it would be, Salah, who he might be our captain, but whoever our captain is, if we captain the likes of Fernandes in that game week, then we would hope that basically would just be a no-no between the two teams. because a lot of people have Calvert-Lewin. He would get us 2 points. Rodriguez would get us 3. Salah would get us 3 points. But we would get double clean sheet from Robertson and Alexander-Arnold, which not many people would have. But we'll have to see kind of how it plays out. But yeah, those are the kind of picks that we're looking at. So let's just go back to the team for the game week as it stands. Again, it's all subject to change. This could be changed depending on price rises and falls by the time we go to do the deadline stream, which we will be doing again. It's going to be 1 hour before the deadline. This week, the deadline is at 7 a.m. my time, which means I'll be up at 6 a.m. my time to start the stream. And that means it's 5 a.m. EDT because I'm 1 hour ahead of East Coast time. So yeah, I think that's going to do it for this week. Yeah, make sure to check us out on all of the socials, which I'll put up on the screen. I will put them up on the screen, as you can see just below me. It is PilotFlame226 on those platforms. Links are also in the description. You know where to find them. We'll be posting some videos Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 1 day, every day, all week. And then we'll be doing the deadline stream here on Twitch as well. So make sure to check us out for that. Again, 1 hour before the deadline as per usual. It's been Pilot Flame, and until the next one, take care.